I always love the DNR boardroom, so if anybody from DNR is here, thank you for letting us use it. We appreciate that. I do want to welcome, we've had a shift in the members of the parole board, and therefore we have a shift on our board. So welcome Braxton and James. James is our new chairman of the parole board, and Braxton's the vice chair. I don't know if y'all want to say anything or not, but I'll open it up to you guys for a second if you want. Just
Thank you. Appreciate it.
good deal. Man, I like that. Very vocal. We do have a quorum. It takes 5 for a quorum, so we do have a quorum. Joseph, I don't know if you want to say anything before we kick off, but I know this will be your last meeting. We want to thank you.
This will be my last
Appreciate you.
meeting. I'm retiring at the end of this month, so this is it for me, and I've enjoyed working with this board and with the parole board, of course, and DJJ. Anyway, so I've enjoyed my years in government, and I'll be completing 48 years in various different governmental things, cities, counties, and the state of Georgia. So it has been very interesting, and it's been my honor to be able to assist this agency and various others. And this agency has been really interesting because we, sort of birthed this agency in recent years, and it's come along very, very well. And it's wonderful to see that, and see how the state government works and how an agency can be set on its way and kept within the lines as far as doing the right thing and so forth. So we're up and running, and that's.
I just know you will be missed, and as I've already shared with you personally, but do want to share with the group, your guidance over the years, your advice, the fact that sometimes when we push you away, you still stick your head into it. Sometimes we don't know we need you. And
you can't get rid of us. You can't get rid of us.
And sometimes we come begging for your assistance. You're always there, and we just we appreciate that. It means a lot to me, and I know the other men and women in here that we have a true partner in the AG's office and somebody who's got our best interest. So thank you. And Tina, we look forward to you coming into that role and know that you'll continue to guide us and direct us.
Yeah,
so
Tina has officially been designated as my replacement as head of the public safety section in the Attorney General's office. That section represents the parole board, Department of Corrections, juvenile justice, this agency, as well as I believe we have 14 others, post and sex offender registration review board, and a variety of them. So Tina's been with us for years, so she will be a very able replacement for me. And plus, I'll leave my phone number and email for for people in case anybody has questions or needs historical perspective on it.
So what are you going to do?
Well, I'm trying to pull together an advocacy group of people like myself who worked in government. I worked for county government, I worked for city government, I worked for state government, and I've been in private practice as a lawyer, and I see a lot of things where I would love to be able to lobby the General Assembly, for example, and I'm getting a group of people together, lawyers and lobbyists and so forth, who are sort of my era, who still want to do something, be active in public service, and so I'm planning on sort of organizing that as an advocacy, a public interest advocacy group. So that's my next career. So.
Well, give us a heads up if you're going to introduce legislation on any of our.
And if I'm going to sue you, I'll let you know.
I just found out I got sued yesterday.
Yeah, I just told Braxton about that. We got a lawsuit in claiming he had promised somebody parole. And I don't think it really happened, but it'll be an interesting lawsuit.
Having said that, we got 2 things that have to be voted on today, and I will need to step out a little early, and Avery will take over as the vice chair. But the first item on our agenda is the election of the chair, and is it secretary or vice chair? Okay, secretary. Okay, so we have the chair and the secretary. At this time, I take a motion for the filling of that position for this year. Any motions?
I'll make a motion that Commissioner Dover.
Second.
I'm sorry.
I make a motion for chairman for Commissioner Dover.
Okay.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposing sign? So that has passed.
You're it
The
again.
mantle again. At this time, I take a motion for secretary.
Make a motion that Commissioner Niles be nominated for secretary.
Second. Have a second by Kevin. Any other discussion? I didn't say that on myself, I should have, so I could have got out of it. Any other discussion on secretary? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? All right, congratulations, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for y'all's confidence. I appreciate it. Hopefully making sure the voices of the board continue. Next item is approval of the proposed agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a move by Commissioner Niles, a second by Mr. Mills. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. The agenda has been approved. And then the next item is approval of the April 20th meeting minutes.
Make a motion we approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Page. Do we have a second? Have a second by Mr. Carroll. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. The minutes have been approved. That looks like all the items today will take votes, and at this time I turn it over to Mr. Nell. And Commissioner, as you present, I'm going to exit stage left and turn it over to Mr. Niles here, but thank you and I appreciate you.
Absolutely, and while you're doing that, Commissioner Dozier, congratulations. Proud to have you at the helm again, as well as Commissioner Niles, very much so. And I appreciate the whole board, and welcome to Braxton Cotton on the board and Vice Chair of Pro Board. Thanks for your patience for the renovation of our board room. Sherry Chambers has done a phenomenal job in making that happen. They ordered furniture and the first order was wrong. So we had them get the order right, send us a second order, which was the same thing as the first order. So I appreciate the patience. We're a little bit behind schedule, and I know it's been a headache for Sherry, but she's done just a phenomenal job, and our boardroom is mimicked a little bit after DNR. We'll steal ideas all day long, but anyway, I think you'll be pleased when it is done. This week is Community Supervision Week. Now, it's also pre-trial week, but I'm a little selfish with it. In our eyes, it's Community Supervision Week. And just this week on Monday, Governor Deal issued a proclamation, and as usual, we had staff over to have a photo op with him. But one thing I will say that I was very pleased in his comment to the team of officers and counselors and admin staff who were there for that proclamation. He complimented them, not just on the job they're doing, but in essence, for making something happen over the past 2 years that had been attempted on several occasions and never could happen. And I think that speaks volumes to the folks that are out there in the work or in the field doing the work day in and day out. And just very, very pleased to continue into our third year. We have submitted under Johnny Nat's leadership with Human Resources an employee engagement survey. We received 90% return rate on those evaluations. We had used an outside firm, if you will, to collect the surveys and to begin to tabulate the surveys and really put it in context with what it tells us. We're looking forward to that. We're also, we never claim to be perfect. We will say that we always strive to be perfect, but we're also prepared to get some feedback where improvement is needed, and I think that's healthy. More importantly, I'm appreciative of the 90% of the staff that did return that survey with input. So look forward to that coming perhaps at the next board meeting. We also sent out stakeholder surveys to the judges and DAs and also public defenders. Those have been returned. I was very, very pleased with them. They either agreed or strongly agreed to the statements that were presented. There were a few that requested to be contacted. I personally contacted them. Interestingly enough, they said, "Oh, I was just putting down my contact information." But there were very few concerns. That I was pleased with, but there were a couple from the DAs and the judges that we addressed and handled. So I was very pleased with their response. We presented to the DAs conference on Saturday down in Jekyll Island. We went over our alternative spectrum, if you will, and our collapsing of alternatives to include access to everyone under our supervision. They were supportive of that. We will be going down next week to the public defenders and then to the judges conference to present the same information. Embarking on a new collaboration for peer support, taking the lead from Eric Skidmore in South Carolina, but also, and forgive me for not having Crystal Zion with the Georgia State Patrol, what her rank and title is, but leads that effort, and also Eve Rogers from the GBI. We met, and after hearing them, we, without a doubt, decided from a leadership perspective to move forward. Commissioner Niles was in that meeting, extremely beneficial, and we think this is going to be just a great asset and offering to our staff. Later on, you'll hear a little bit about what's going on in training. One of the things with our basic supervision, or our basic officer training, a lot of hard work. I'll compliment Reginald Hewley and his staff. We have moved to a blended model. Typically, they would go down to Gypstick for 9 weeks or have 9 weeks devoted to training. We have moved to a blended model where now they will only be spending 5 weeks down there and the rest will be online. That was no easy feat, but that is where the nation is going in correctional training, with the exception of the hands-on. So it's going to save us time, it's going to save us money, it's going to have a greater speed to market for these new officers, but more importantly, it's going to allow another 4 weeks for them to be at home with their families instead of away. So we're really excited, and that didn't just happen by chance. Later on, Sandra Thomas will be coming up telling you about our basic program with Kennesaw State University and our partnership. It's the first in the state. We believe the first in the nation, but I cannot confirm that. But that was not our idea. We actually took it as a lead from several other law enforcement agencies and colleges here in the state of Georgia, and we thought if they can do it for the policing community, why can't we do it for community supervision? So Reggie will be bringing an update on that. Also, Nick Powell will be bringing an update on the ambassador program that we're embarking upon. Our metrics and dashboards continue to be worked. I think I shared with you last time we have about just over 100 performance measures. Our IT system is building the system to capture those metrics. That's kind of an exciting time for us because I'm hoping in the very near future, every board meeting, we will have metrics that we had discussed several months ago regarding our performance that you'll be able to see on a regular basis and see in real time. So we're close, but again, that's a lot of work when you start from the ground up. Our strategic plan has been approved again by OPB. I want to publicly thank Richard Olson for his hard work in that effort. We adhere to our strategic plan. Unfortunately, there's some agencies that have a strategic plan and it goes on the shelf. They pull it out 5 years later, redo it. But we meet twice a year to make sure that we're on plan with our strategic plan, our 3 to 5 year plan, plus our 12-month operational plan. So again, I appreciate the work Richard Olson as well as the entire senior management team has done. Georgia Professional Association Community Supervision Summer Conference, August 30th to September 1st, down at the Westin on Jekyll Island. I would love it if you all could attend, if not for all of it, just a portion of it. It's a great time to interact with staff. This is not a DCS association. There are many folks there to include Pardons and Paroles, Department of Corrections, DJJ, certainly private municipal probation. So it's an excellent opportunity. If you can't attend all, love for you to attend part of it. And if you'll see R. Russell or Barbara Neville for details, we'll make sure we get you taken care of. So we'd love to have you there. Before I turn it over, a couple of noteworthy retirements. Barb Staten retired last month. If you know Barb, you know what an asset she was. And she has held several roles. But we did something special for her. Our last basic graduation, we asked her to administer oath to the new officers coming in. And I thought that was a very touching tribute. And she will be missed, but Mary Ann Dillard is coming in her place. And we're excited about the work that she'll continue to do. And finally, Joe DeLay, can't say enough kind of things about Joe. Greg did a wonderful job with it, but I've probably worked closely with Joe, I know, over 20, 25 years. And it's been wonderful. He gives a lot of insight, a lot of perspective. And when you talk about a void, Joe, Tina's going to do a wonderful job, there's no doubt. But there's a void there. And one thing we say at DCS, let's go make a difference. And I want you to know, Joe, you've made a difference. And I greatly appreciate you and have the utmost respect for you. So at this time, I'm going to call on Scott Now, our Assistant Commissioner, Chief of Staff, to discuss some organizational changes and updates, and also give you a status update on Senate Bill 174. Before doing that, are there any questions, issues, or concerns I can address for the board?
Is there any from the board?
There have been some, I guess, rumors about us not meeting every month until the dashboards get on. Anything on that?
No, I know that myself and Commissioner Dozier had talked about that with performance metrics and incorporating that into the meeting. That's really going to be a decision of the board. I think you'll find that when we have a month without meeting, you'll find today's meeting will probably have more information than as when we were meeting every month. So I think, quite honestly, Steve, that meeting every month sometimes is just a regurgitation of information, but I've had no substantive conversations about that, and really that would be the will of the board.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further questions? I have one concerning the training, the blended model. The 5 weeks, the 4 weeks that they do the online, are they in the field also shadowing, or what are they doing?
No, so they're actually doing the course content that they would be receiving. It is the same content and that they would be receiving as if they were sitting down at Gypstick. Okay. It's just now with today's technology, right, it affords them opportunity. And I tell you, I want to brag on the Public Safety Training Center. If you go and look at some of their training models, no disrespect to training in the past, but I actually found it far more fulfilling being online. I found myself to be more engaged with it. The testing was extremely competent for the course content, but really, Avery, short answer, they can do it anywhere. But after training, there is a field training officer component that they are married up with a FTO that does their, if you will, in the field checkoff. That's several weeks of a process.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you and good morning. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I will be brief. We, for the past 2 years, very frequently referred to ourselves as the state of Georgia's newest state agency. We feel like at this point we're 2 years into the process. We're moving into our 3rd year. We're no longer a new state agency. We're just one of Georgia's state agencies. And I will tell you that when we first started and staffed our agency, we staffed it with the idea that we needed people in certain positions to stand the agency up and get it up and running. And so after 2 years, we've realized that there's some needs in some other places. And so I'd like to announce a couple of those changes this morning. I'm going to start off with, I think he's here, Bert Fluellen. Bert Fluellen is now our Chief Operating Officer. He has direct responsibility for both the Field Services Division and the Field Operations Division. so a large chunk of the agency, and certainly congratulations to Bert, and excited to work with him in that capacity. We also, Michael mentioned earlier that Mary Ann Dillard is now our Director of OPS, and she's filling the shoes of Barb, but she's been in that position working with Barb for a while. She's done a great job. She's worked in that division in the past, so we look forward to working with Mary Ann. I'd also like to announce that Richard Olson's division, previously he was responsible for strategic planning. He is now responsible for strategic planning as well as research. And with that, we've moved 2 positions to work directly with Richard in the research. One of them is being Nick Powell, is a data analyst, and Robbie Lee will be joining that unit as well as a data analyst. We get a lot of requests for data as well as research, and so to have that kind of organized in one unit, one division only made sense. And Richard's always kind of been a go-to person, so look forward to that change. And then lastly, Sherry Chambers is here somewhere as well. Sherry is now going to take what previously was Mary Ann's role as our Director of Special Projects. So I just want to congratulate all of them on their new positions. And I will also add that this is not, those 4 changes were not for new positions. They were actually, they all stayed on the position they were on. They were just now used in a different capacity. So we didn't add to our count, but just changed the responsibilities. So congratulations to the 4 of them, and looking forward to working with them further in the future. Senate Bill 174 went effective July 1st. We have been working very closely, not only with the Council of State Governments, but also with our partner agencies. And also, I've got to give a lot of credit, or the majority of the credit, to the local focus groups, as well as our IT shop that have done an extraordinary amount of work in a very short period of time to make sure that we hit the July 1st deadline. And ironically, in a lot of the meetings that we had with CSG earlier in the year, they kept reminding me when we meet, you really don't have to meet the July 1st deadline. And our goal was to hit the first deadline, and they're actually in town today, and they were here yesterday. And to their surprise, in the majority of the recommendations, we were able to make sure that implementation started July 1st. That took a lot of work from IT, and a lot of work from the focus groups, and a lot of work from our partner agencies. Specifically, the main things within the bill were the behavior incentive date. AOC is tasked with meeting this month, I believe, and they're going to be voting on putting that behavioral incentive date language on the sentencing sheet. So going forward, the judge will have that option. The early terminations and moved to unsupervised, both of those workflow processes have been built into our IT system. The officers have already had the cases loaded on their caseloads that are eligible for the consideration process, as well as the parole commutation consideration process has been loaded into our IT system, and the early termination requests. So everything is tracking. We do have some early data, some early numbers that are very encouraging, but not even being 30 days into it, it's not really data that we would share at this point. But we do feel like by the next time we meet, we should at least have a month's worth of data to share how the progress is going on all those fronts. So I'm certainly open to any questions if there are any. If not, I'm going to turn it over to Sandra.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Good morning.
Good morning.
Michael already mentioned about our Kennesaw State University project with training, and he's given a lot of information, but I would like for Reggie Hewley, the training director, to come up and give just a little bit more insight about the program and what it all entails and the start dates of those, and to discuss the revision of our basic training. We are super, super excited about that. We're looking to start in the fall. So super excited. So Reggie, if you would come up and just give us a quick overview of that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would be remiss if I didn't first start out by thanking my staff, Mr. Jim Sykes, and the rest of the people that actually work down at Forsyth for putting a lot of this together. And just so that you all know, this whole entire process did require post-approval, so we had to go through a whole bunch of getting paperwork together, documentation to submit to post for their approval before we could implement into this process. It was approved, and we're pretty much in effect now, starting with July, and we will try to kick this off starting with our August basic. I'll first start with the KSU partnership. It is headed up by Dr. Pete Benton, who is the Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice at KSU. Originally, we started out the program just trying to open it up to criminal justice students, but we kind of expanded it, and we're going to also take students in the courses of study of sociology as well as psychology. As Sandra mentioned, starting off, we're going to start in 2018. First class will start January the 8th. Registration will actually start for the students at KSU on November the 1st. We will use resources to get this completed from KSU. They'll offer us a classroom. Public safety training resources are going to come from GIPSTIC at Cherokee as well as the Cherokee County Sheriff's Department. They're going to offer us ranges, targets, the simulation for firing exercises, classroom space, as well as a shoot house there. And then DCS will offer as far as uniform equipment, weapons, instructors, and the course materials. So it all happened on the north end of the state around the KSU campus as well as GIPSTIC at Cherokee. That program as well was approved by Post for us entering that. And kind of the things that's going to be brought to the table from this process would be obviously students from KSU get college credit as well as at the end of the program. If they successfully complete our course, they will be certified community supervision officers. So it happens simultaneously. The course is called Criminal Justice 3398 is the course that they will be participating in. Also, DCS will obviously benefit from having a reduction in market time and hiring, as Michael mentioned, and some of that cost that Michael mentioned that we are saving. Preliminary numbers that I ran with the help of our budget folks. It takes about $24,000 to send a student through basic. With using the KSU internship, we can save roughly about $14,000 by using that internship program. Are there any questions more specific to KSU and that partnership and that internship? Yes, sir.
So this is a college course, if I understand you correctly, that KSC is going to use that people would go to that want to be in community corrections. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It is a part of their criminal justice curriculum, and as they enter it, it's like the last thing that they have to do before they earn their degree. So it's a long internship. And as they go through that process, they will simultaneously be completing their college degree, yes, and they would earn credit for being a post-certified community supervision officer.
Would that be something that would be an alternative, like that somebody could sign up just to take that particular course? Or is that all part of the degree?
Yeah, it's part of the degree. They're required at Kennesaw, and you may ask why Kennesaw. They actually have the largest criminal justice program in the state. So we have a good partnership with them as well as other universities, Steve. But they require them to undergo anywhere from a 300 to 400 hour internship. So some of these folks were already interning with us, and it was required. So it is part of their criminal justice and social science degree, the internship. So we're just saying basic training can serve as your internship. Right. And so they leave there with a degree and a conditional job offer.
And this may be a dumb question, but like in the misdemeanor arena, if they completed that course, they would not have to they would be certified.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. They actually leave there with that community supervision officer certification. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I just had a quick, what's the scale of the programs or the size limit? Isn't this going to help y'all to have basically people ready to come into the department?
It is. We sat down, Michael and Reggie, correct me if I'm wrong here, we need to determine what's the minimum amount to make this happen. So we actually did a survey of incoming seniors at KSU to gauge the interest. Overwhelming interest, without a doubt. And we said, okay, we need to have at least 15 to make this work. And ideally, we would like to have 30. And the indication now, Michael, is that there's not going to be an issue at all with getting that.
Good. I just want to make sure it's worthwhile, but plus it's going to help y'all out too.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's below 15, we felt this is not going to be a go, but all indicators, I think Bert actually conducted the survey in concert with KSU, and it generated far more interest.
I think it's a great thing, so.
And that survey that he's referring to is originally opened up to just their criminal justice students. And after meeting with Pete about 2 weeks ago, we made a decision to say, hey, we'll also open this program up to sociology and psychology students. So it's going to increase our pool of having to meet that having 30 students per class session. Also, additionally, we're going to have 2 sessions with them per year. There's going to be one starting in January. We won't do the summer session because there's just not enough time. They only have about 8 weeks, give or take, and that won't give us enough time to complete our program, so the other one will start in the latter part of the year. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, and on the portion for the blended learning, Michael pretty much covered everything on that. Just to let you guys know, prior to us making this change, we used to do it's a 320-hour certification course, about 9 weeks. We used to do Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days, about 50 students, and do about 5 classes per year with a total of about 250 officers that we could certify in any given year. With this new model, we're going to 5 8-hour days, about 30 hours officers per class, with the ability to do about 3 per quarter, and the ability we should be able to produce about 360 sworn staff per year based on going to this blended model. And like I said, the advantage is more time at home for them, kind of frees up my staff to do some more things there on ground, but it's a win-win situation all the way around.
That's great.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Reggie. I'd be remiss too if I didn't thank Reggie for all of his work and his staff for the revisions and the Kennesaw State University project. This is a big deal for us. It's huge. It's moving forward. It's looking forward. And they have done an outstanding job. When we asked Reggie to look at BASIC and how we deliver BASIC, they got it right the very first time. They presented a product to us, and they hit it right on. And so we really, really appreciate you, Reggie, and your staff. The next thing Michael talked about was our ambassador program. Our ambassador program is housed over in our public affairs division, and it's really a professional opportunity for some staff to come in and learn about public affairs, and then too, it would provide support to the field. So at this time, I want Nick Powell to come up and talk a little bit more about our ambassador program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, first of all, you may be wondering, what is the Employee Ambassador Program? Like Sandra said, it's a public affairs initiative that's going to prepare and support frontline officers to speak on the behalf of DCS. So these officers will be expected to serve as agency representatives when called upon, and they'll also operate as liaisons between the area they're working and public affairs. So the goal is that we'll be able to expand trustworthiness and communications of DCS, among the communities that our officers are serving. So what this will look like is, first there will of course be a selection process, which Rachel and her team have worked on an online assessment, and then interested candidates will also submit a letter of intent, kind of similar to post-IT adjunct instructor, and then the field recommendation will come up to Rachel's office in public affairs to make decisions on who will be in the program. Once selected, there will be a 32-hour advanced media training hosted by our public affairs team, where the candidates will receive blocks of instruction on effective communication skills, writing statements, interacting with the media, as well as they'll engage in a lot of scenarios to get hands-on experience and get critical feedback from the public affairs staff. And ultimately, at the end of that training, the candidates will demonstrate their abilities in front of a panel who will judge them on a practical exam, so that by the end of it, the idea is our executive leadership team who will be serving on the panel will be signing off on these ambassadors to represent our agency. And then after they successfully completed the training, the ambassadors will hit the field, and their role can be split up into, two categories. Responsive, where they'll be responsible for responding to the media with the support of public affairs, of course, at the local level, as well as they'll be the public affairs point of contact during critical incidents. So this is huge because, during a critical incident like a fugitive situation, our chiefs and our district directors need to be focused on operations. So this will be opening up an additional lane of communication from the field to public affairs to make sure information's still rolling while the field's focused on, the task at hand. And then the proactive roles that the ambassadors will be engaged in is they'll be expanding the chief's capabilities to engage stakeholders. So, our chiefs do a really good job of speaking to different members of the community, but they can only be in one place at one time. So the ambassadors will give us some support in that role. And then they'll also be the public affairs point of contact for any future initiatives that they want to roll out in the field. So they'll have someone that can call on that. And then while serving in this role, the ambassadors, it'll be an 18-month term, and then they'll still be responsible for their normal job responsibilities. The idea is for this to be a developmental opportunity. Like I said, probably the best comparison would be the post-IT adjunct instructors. So DCS stands to gain a lot from the implementation of this initiative. First of all, the field is going to get public relations trained staff embedded in the front lines, as well as it's going to be opening up a new career and development pipeline for our field officers. The skill set that's going to make an officer good at this role, is not something that was traditionally recognized and rewarded from, PMFs and case reviews. So we're going to be tapping into a potentially previously underutilized skill set. Then public affairs stands to benefit because going from a strictly centralized model and expanding these ambassadors across the state, they're going to be extending their reach and extending their support capabilities for the field. And public affairs will also be gaining succession planning from this. So, ideally for future public affairs positions, someone who served in this ambassador role would be an ideal candidate to fill those applicant pools for public affairs positions. And then DCS as an agency, with having these officers who, have the mission, vision, and values ingrained in their work as they're interacting with the community, that's gonna give us brand advocacy. And by rewarding previously under-recognized talent out in the fields, we're going to hopefully be also boosting our employee engagement. And then opening that additional line of communication during critical incidents, DCS is going to be able to improve the responsiveness during a crisis. Does anyone have any questions about the program? I know I kind of went over it quick.
The number of ambassadors you planning on rolling out for the entire state?
First, have you guys settled on an exact number? Or?
We're going to have 2 seats per district.
2 seats per district.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding the program? All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Who's up next?
Thought I'd missed the memo. Good morning. Other than the day-to-day operations, I have a few points I'd like to mention today. On June 5th through the 9th, I had the opportunity to travel to Denver, Colorado and attend the NIC Executive Leadership Training. It was an excellent opportunity. I learned a great deal of information and also got networking throughout the nation. So I wanted to thank Commissioner, Assistant Commissioner, and Bert for that opportunity to attend. It's always good to continue training. On June 22nd, we had a very fruitful statewide chiefs meeting. A lot of information was covered, specifically zeroed in on the implementation of Senate Bill 174. A lot of good questions and a lot of traction made there. As Assistant Commissioner Maurer mentioned earlier, CSG is in town, and Will Driver, Deputy Director of Field Operations, carried some members from CSG to the Rockdale circuit and had a very good conversation with staff. A lot of positive feedback from CSG and very, very good trip, time well spent. As I mentioned previously, our court specialist pilot has been completed in Athens. It's progressing very well in Savannah, and we're very, very close to rolling that out on a statewide basis once approval is received from the executive leadership. Again, allowing 150 officers that are currently assigned specifically to courtroom duties to be back in the field supervising caseloads. Also, just recently, James Bergman and group put together a focus group to consider and vet purchasing Narcan, which is a antidote to fentanyl contamination. And we actually signed the contract now. We're going to equip every officer in the field with that antidote and looking out for our staff and trying to give the most protection we can for them. One thing I'd like to do too, and take the liberty to do, is recognize my direct reports. I can't say enough about them. I'm truly blessed to have such a solid, strong, supportive staff. And I've asked them to be in attendance today so I could personally and publicly recognize them. So I'll start with Will Driver. He's the Deputy Director of the east side of the state. Patrick Holsey, Deputy Director of the west side of the state. James Bergman, he's our Deputy Director, Special Operations. Michelle Stanley, Director of Reentry Services. And Michelle Zachary, Confidential Administrative Assistant. And as everybody in this room knows, Michelle does a lion's share of her work, so does an excellent job. All this group does an excellent job, and I just want to take the opportunity to recognize them publicly and publicly tell you a true, honest thank you. Excellent. With that, pending any questions, aside from any questions, that's all I have to report.
Is there any questions from the board? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Well, good morning, board. How are you?
Good morning.
I'm going to speak with you today regarding the DCS housing unit and our reentry partnership housing. The reentry partnership housing is a program that partners DCS, parole, Department of Corrections, and Department of Community Affairs. And the goal was to provide housing for those individuals that basically were in the prison system, that didn't have a place to go, that didn't have housing, and looking to connect those individuals with housing to get them out of the prison system, get them in the community, and save that bed space for those individuals that really need to be in the prison system and transition those other individuals. We currently have 29 active RPH housing providers. This is an increase of 7 for the fiscal year 2017. We have facilities in 8 of our 10 districts, and our current RPH maximum bed space has reached our goal of 300. We had a goal set last year to go ahead and expand those beds up, so we're up to 300. We've also expanded that RPH program to those individuals that are on probation, that also have homeless issues, so we have expanded there, and I'll speak in a few minutes about another expansion as we move forward. This year we've actually streamlined our housing application process through DCS and DCA for the individuals that are interested in coming to provide housing. For 2017, we have new provider training that began in May of this year and is ongoing. And the application process for the new RPH providers starts in November of 2017 and will run through the month till November 30th. A mandatory application process workshop for potential applicants is going to be held in October. And at that meeting, DCS as well as DCA will be there together to talk to those housing potential providers to bring them into the possibility of their application being more likely to be accepted. In the past year, we found we had a lot of applications that for whatever reason they couldn't be processed all the way through. So we're looking to close that gap and bring those potential individuals, housing providers, where they can be accepted into this program. August 10th of this year, we're actually having an upcoming meeting for those providers that are already on board with us. And our housing unit under Harris Childers. We'll go with those, the housing providers we currently have in place, go over any policy changes we have, answer any questions, and really have a face-to-face with those individuals to try to solve any issues or problems or answer any questions that those people that we have on board have, because we certainly want to keep the ones that we have since we have reached that 300-bed goal. We've also, during fiscal year 2017, finalized a mental health 3-level referral process. The individuals that are classified by the Department of Corrections as a mental health level 3 have a little bit more needs as they come into the system. We have successfully placed 9 mental health level 3 cases into the RPH program. We've increased providers from 2 to 5 in the RPH program, and they're willing to accommodate those mental health level 3 cases. And we also have a referral process online for that. In addition, we have the accountability court expansion. Recently, in February of 2017, we started having meetings with DCS, the Council of Accountability Court Judges, DCA, in order to look to expand out the RPH beds for those individuals in the accountability courts. We are moving through that process, and we have an MOU that is in the process of being accepted and finalized. So we're moving forward on that to expand those RPH beds out to those individuals in the accountability courts. Finally, we've had training sessions for the Department of Corrections counseling staff. The first training session was January 26th of this year down at the Public Safety Training Center. The second training session was June 26th. And we have another one for Washington State Prison scheduled for August 1st, 2017. So far, we've provided training to 79 of the 81 GDC institutions in order to have them trained on the RPH program. And then finally, one other thing that we have working is with the Georgia Justice Project, and it's an employment work group that myself, individuals from the Department of Corrections, and Employment, Georgia Justice Project are looking to try to expand potential employment for the individuals that we supervise. Looking to also expand potential employment for those individuals that have felony convictions that aren't necessarily under our supervision, but trying to get in touch with employers and expand out opportunities so that the folks that we have out there on the street can be more successful with the job. So that's a little bit what's going on currently on the field services side of the house. I'll certainly be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Is there any questions from the board? Reference to your 300-bed cap.
Yeah.
What's the goal now?
We actually are getting back together to go ahead and push the cap up a little higher. I think the key is going to be to set a goal, and with this application provider process to try to meet that goal. So we're just in the initial stages as we roll to the next fiscal year. So we are working on that. We don't have it set yet.
And as you approach the fiscal year, do you have that in your budget to expand that capability?
The current budget, as part of the accountability court expansion,
Right.
they're looking to do a budget expansion as part of that, but that agreement has to be finalized and signed by all parties before we move forward with that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Commissioner Niles, if you may also, when we talk about RPH, that is actually funded through corrections.
Okay.
It's not through our budget,
All right.
it's actually through corrections and also some SCAP funding
Right.
that is utilized, so that's typically handled through OPB and corrections.
Got it.
So if you don't see it in our budget, that's the reason for it.
Excellent.
Any other questions?
That's it.
Oh, thank you.
Miss Michelle.
Good morning.
Morning.
Guess I didn't move quick enough for Mike.
You did not?
But just a few notable mentions for reentry services. Since the last board meeting, I've had some changes within my unit to, of course, make sure we're more effective, more efficient. We've added a project and service manager, Mary Elliott, to kind of help with that effort, as well as I've absorbed more. Thank you, Commissioner. We absorbed more. The maxed out reentry program for field services is now aligned with field operations, and I inherited Nancy Smith as the program manager for that. In terms of the prison reentry initiative, we continue to work both in and outreach services to ensure that we are providing focused services for ensuring that with their linkage with resources and case planning, that it lines up to meet their goals, to make sure they're successful when they reenter their communities. And we served about 15,000 closing out this last fourth quarter for this fiscal year. In terms of community coordination, we continue to work with our community coordinators to continue to increase capacity in those communities to make sure those resources are available to meet the need for those being released. We continue our partnerships and collaboration. Actually, this week, today, we're working with WorkSource Georgia with their WIOA convening. That's up in Duluth. That's under the Department of Economic and Development. We're actually presenting this afternoon to their group. We were there yesterday. When I leave today, I'll be headed back that way to be there to present this afternoon. Also looking forward to this fall, working with Dave Keller's Bread Foundation under their Second Chance Summit. Of course, they will be bringing individuals in from the workforce to not only impress the importance of being able to hire those that are being released back in the community, but ensure that it's suitable and the right fit. We will be partnering with them to ensure that we have those on hand. Once the planning is done, I'll be sharing that information with the CSO officers to make sure we've identified those that can actually attend that second part of the summit, not only to get skills in terms of resume building, interviewing skills, but also hopefully have interviews on site and hopefully obtain jobs before they leave. So I'm proud of that initiative that's coming forward. We'll continue to work with our both stakeholders, both on the state government level as well as in the community, to make sure that we're reaching those that need reentry services. Any questions for me?
Excellent. Any questions? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank you all for letting me be here, and welcome to the new board members. And Joe, you will be missed. I want to publicly appreciate you for all your help with the DCS board rules with misdemeanor. And Tina, we look forward to working with you in the future. I've provided you guys with the first quarter reports inside your packets for your reference if you want to look at those. And if you have any questions, you can either ask them now or get with me later on. We've reported, our quarterly reports are broken down by probationers under supervision, cases under supervision, and financial collections. So we've conducted and completed 22 audits so far this year. We've reviewed 174 contracts. We've completed 40 on-site visits and reviewed 2,419 cases. So my staff has been very busy, but I'm very proud of them. We've also made some significant progress with the GBI and our GAPs, which is our fingerprints. And I want to publicly thank Aura Russell for all her hard work and dedication in getting those accounts and agreements between DCS and the providers completed. So now we will be getting our fingerprints and GAPs response directly from the GBI. NPOU was selected by OPD for a zero-based budget, so we've been working with them, and I have a final meeting with them today so that they can finish up their report. So I look forward to seeing what they have for that. And then I would like to take this opportunity to thank Tim Lewis for all his hard work providing training for the misdemeanor probation offices and their staff. He's done this statewide. Dale Allen out of Athens, Clark County, and board member Steve Page have also been instrumental in pulling this off, so I would like to thank them. And then if you don't mind, I'd like to turn it over for Mr. Lewis to give you an update on the statewide training very quickly. But before, do you have any questions as far as the quarterly report?
What's the difference in probationers under supervision and cases? Is the cases or the individual docket numbers?
The cases are the actual dockets that are under supervision. So you can have one probationer with 3 cases, 2 cases, 5 cases.
Thank you.
What about warrant status? Is that an individual warrant or is that an individual?
We report that both. So we have probationers that are under warrant status, which would be the individual, and then we report cases under warrant status, which would be, again, back to referring to the docket. So as you'll see more cases under supervision and more cases having higher numbers linked in the quarterly reports versus the person.
Any other questions? All right.
Okay, Sam?
Good morning.
Morning.
I first want to say I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm very eager to see what we can do in the realm of training within the misdemeanor system to see how we can impact the lives of those that are doing the job, and also obviously those that are being supervised in the courts and the communities that they're serving in. Once I stepped into the position early in January, the first thing I did is I went out and began to speak with the providers, both public and private, large and small, to begin to get an idea of what the needs are. And as I anticipated, I found there was significant needs. There were some providers that had very elaborate and very formal programs, but there were some that did not. So we began to put our heads together with Director Neville, and I appreciate her support, and Aura and all the members of our unit has been very supportive of me in these early days of trying to get a grasp on what the need is and how we can best go about meeting those needs. So as she mentioned, we reached out to Del Allen in Athens, to Mr. Page, to Mr. Terrell, and others to begin to get ideas and formulate those ideas. So the first thing that we did was begin to set a schedule to provide some training. As our understanding grew, we realized not only was there a lack of resources specific to misdemeanor needs, but there was a lack of opportunities. So we developed a calendar. We've had 3 sessions so far. We set up 2-day sessions, two consecutive day training sessions. The first one is slanted towards meeting the needs of anyone that's a part of that operation, be it a probation officer, an owner, director, and admin staff. And the second day is geared more toward case management, possibly for the probation officers. So our first one was held in May in Athens. Our second one was held in Cumming, where Mr. Page co-hosted. One of the things that I did was I reached out to search for co-hosts in those local areas to help me identify locations and to find support to involve everybody in those areas and hopefully to raise our participation level. So like I said, Athens, Clark County co-hosted the first one in May. Mr. Page co-hosted there in Cumming in June. We just returned last week from being down in Valdosta, and our friends at GDC there at the Valdosta State Prison allowed us to utilize their training building there. Lieutenant Weiser was an outstanding host, and we appreciated that from Warden Williams there. Next month, we are hosting one down at Gypstick. In September, we're going to DeKalb County. Chief Willie Hopkins in Decatur is going to co-host. October, we're going to Noonan. Mr. Terrell and his crew is going to co-host us over there. And just this week, I have finalized a 2-day, but we're going to do it in one day in October and one day in November down in Hinesville. Mary Dowd, who's director of the Hinesville Municipal Probation down there. And in that area, we're going to separate it because some of the smaller providers can't send folks on consecutive days. So we're trying to make things as flexible as possible. So that gives you an idea of what our schedule's been like. To this point in time, we've utilized 16 different trainers, again, trying to identify a pool of trainers coming from both the public and the private sector. Very impactful in that has been the participation of Jennifer Thomas with the Domestic Violence Council. We do a 2-hour session, and she's been excited to participate. We thank her for that. We've had 97 individuals, including those that are already registered for next month down at Gypstick. We will have impacted at least 97 different individuals coming from 26 government entities, 10 different private probation entities, 55 probation officers, 17 admin, 24 owners and directors. I've sent out a survey following the sessions. So far, I'm very thankful that the response has been very favorable. So we seem to be, in these early days, meeting their needs, making it impactful to them. We've also, I was in contact with Ryan Powell at Post, and with the assistance of the folks that support our DCS team down at Gypstick, Vicki Rollins and others, we have been able to get it to where those who are sworn staff, maybe with the city or county programs, that post is recognizing these hours for those folks as well. So we feel like we've begun to find a way, and we're eager to see where we can go next. You have any questions?
Is there any questions?
I'd just like to make a comment and thank Ms. Neville and Tim. I think what they're doing is really something that's needed, and they've been very professional and done a very good job in reaching out to everybody and trying to meet everybody's needs. And I think a lot of times we criticize, but these guys have really done a great job. Mr. Neal, I thank you for helping get this going. And Ms. Thomas came up to come into our office, so it just shows how much y'all are putting into this thing.
Thank you, Steve. I will mention also, Commissioner mentioned earlier about the Professional Association GPACs, and I've invited them. GPACs has come and participated in each of these events as well, trying to make the broader probation system aware of GPACs and their involvement. So, any other questions?
Well, excellent. Any further questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Michael, is there, Commissioner Neal, is there anything?
No, sir,
else?
not unless I think the only other thing is Jenny from Commission on Family Violence, but that's for our business unless there's any questions. That's it for us.
All right,
Mr. Chairman.
yes, sir.
Commissioner Neal,
Yes.
I heard you say earlier, I think early on, that y'all had given surveys to, I think, the judges and the DAs, right?
Judges, DAs, and public defenders. Correct.
Okay. Is there a plan to broaden that? I heard you say that some things came back, suggestions, and you're a better agency because of it.
Yeah, there's certainly what we do is we look at it, to be quite candid with you, the majority of the concerns had nothing to do with DCS. The majority of the concerns were out of our control. Some dealt with the prosecution of cases from the GBI lab in testimony situations. Some, quite candidly, talked about Senate Bill 174. Again, we're just carrying it out.
Yeah, I don't want to really, I didn't mean to get in the weeds of that, and I think it's great that you're doing that. Really the essence of my question is, through the survey, you learn, and it's just like us. I mean, you used to be the director of parole, and you know how when we get protests, a lot of times it's just what you just said. It has nothing to do with parole. It's a problem somewhere else. But the stakeholders at this table, I know at least when I heard you say that, I thought, well, that would be a good thing for maybe pardon and parole to receive a survey from.
Yeah, well,
and
let me share with you why not go on about it. Because district attorneys, judges, public defenders do not represent a seat on the board. Parole does. Just like private probation, municipal probation, administration of county, ACCG is there, as well as DJJ. That's why those three was targeted. They don't have a seat on the board. By you all having a direct seat on the board, you have direct communication. Just as there's a chair of the parole board and a vice chair of the parole board. That's why that is that way. You represent the concerns of the parole board. And I have no problem doing a survey, but that was the reason those three were picked. They do not have representation on the board.
Right. No, I fully understand. I appreciate you doing it. I think that probably each stakeholder around this table might have something that they might want to suggest to you. They may not. But if they do, and if it's something that we can all work together on, we're all going to be better from it in the long run. And that's the spirit that I'm bringing this question to you from. It's not in any other manner. And of course, it's up to the people around this board. Any one of us, I can just speak for the Pardon and Parole Board. I think it might be helpful if we just continue the communication lines there between us. We might have some things that we've not talked about in this DCS board meeting.
Be more than happy to. I think we're meeting after this meeting, actually.
We are.
With the pro board, so that's certainly one avenue, but I have no problem, I have no problem discussing needs, issues, or concerns in an open forum and environment either. I think that's why we record these meetings. I think that's the best way to do business, because if it concerns our agency, it may concern the board, and it concerns our agency, then I think it concerns every single one of the DCS board members. So it seems to, it needs to be discussed in front of them as well. That's just my personal and professional opinion. Steve?
Is there like a summary of the things that
There
you
is.
might want to present to
Yeah.
let us look at? Just
Be
a
more
summary.
than-
I'm not talking about looking at, because I mean, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
we do a scale, we'll have all the questions, and then it'll list all the responses. So yeah, we can send that out before this meeting's concluded. We can send that to you so you'll see.
Or I was just going to suggest that maybe you can give us a 10-minute overview of it at the next board meeting.
More than happy to.
That way, for newcomers to the board, better understand the roles as it relates to the reasoning behind the surveys and what data you collected and how you're going to utilize that to improve services.
Sure.
Could we get the copy though, so
Yeah.
when we have, we might have some questions?
I'll go ahead and make sure prior to this meeting conclude, it's probably already in process by somebody sending it your way. We'll get the summary to you. That's not an issue, and then we'll be more than happy to present those at the next board meeting.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Miss Jenny.
All right, good morning. I'm here in place of our director, Jennifer Thomas, who is on vacation with her family this week. So she just asked me to give a few brief updates, so I'll keep it short. First is in regard to the trainings that Tim just mentioned. She just wanted me to share both her appreciation and excitement for being included on those important trainings, and we're looking forward to being included in the ones that are planned for the fall. The second is about our annual conference that we have planned. This year's conference will be in Athens, Georgia, from September 10th through 13th. And our theme is maintaining our momentum, proven and promising practices to end family violence. Registration opened about a month or 6 weeks ago, and we have 300 registrants that are ready to go and paid for, and that we are happy to host. And we've secured scholarships for 48 sexual assault advocates, 122 domestic violence advocates, and 49 DFACS employees through the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. And the commission is pleased to provide scholarships for 49 DCS officers to attend this year. And so we've also solidified our conference workshops and keynotes. And we are happy to be bringing in Jim Henderson, who is a retired probation officer and a technical assistance provider for the U.S. Department of Justice Office on Violence Against Women. He'll be providing 2 workshops on the first day of our conference, specifically for community supervision officers. The first workshop is entitled Identifying and Supervising Victims of Intimate Partner Violence. And his second workshop will be We See You, Supervising Stalking Offenders. We're happy to be, having DCS officers and having a bigger presence of DCS at our conference this year. Speaking of stalking, we also conduct our Fatality Review Project. Annually, we're in the middle of our project this year, and we've decided to focus on stalking trends in our cases that we've reviewed in our next report. And so when we look back at the prevalence of stalking in the domestic violence homicide cases we've reviewed, we found that stalking had occurred in 43% of reviewed cases. So our report that we'll be publishing in the spring of next year will focus specifically on, exploring what exactly that stalking looked like in those relationships and best practices we can integrate into our response. And then we're excited to announce, I know you guys have received a presentation and have heard about our last annual report we released earlier this year that focused on murder-suicide trends in domestic violence homicides. We've received some national recognition for that report, and Nikki Lemeshka, our Fatality Review Coordinator, and I have been invited to present at a national conference in San Diego next month, the National Organization for Victim Advocates. So we'll be providing a workshop for advocates there, talking about the findings from our report that we published and how to advocates can integrate what we've learned into safety planning with victims of domestic violence. So those are our updates.
Does the 43% take in consideration law enforcement engagement?
In response to stalking. So we look at public records. So most of the time that's how we identify trends in our cases is through open records, and a lot of that times that is law enforcement response. And again, that's just what we know about. Oftentimes there's stalking that's occurring that we don't necessarily have access to unless we've interviewed friends and family members who have disclosed that to us.
Excellent. Is there any questions from the board? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Moving on the agenda, old business. Is there anything on the old business that we need to discuss or bring up? Hearing none, is there any new business?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask about the board, the advisory board that helps us from time to time and has been very incremental. That I would ask that maybe they be included in our meetings. I don't know, once a quarter or a couple times a year at least, that they, so we kind of know who they are, who we are, and any feedback. I just, and she was fine with that. Just whatever arrangement the board felt like would be appropriate, she was wanting to ask them to maybe come to our meetings.
Right, and I don't foresee any issues with that, that the advisory board members, they just can't have a voice in the board. Then we'll make that note. Staff, been transparent. Of the board, you doing the even though that Michelle takes a lot of our employees to make her system better system for the state. But you all are doing a yeoman's job, so you're to be commended for this, for a new stand-up agency and the way that we have progressed in Georgia to make all citizens safer. So thank you for your leadership. That's that servant leader. So thank you. Is there anything from the board?
Just about the meeting, will we meet in August?
I don't know exactly when we will meet again. This being the end of July. Do you see anything, Michael or Commissioner Nail?
I don't see anything that needs to be voted on. It may be a conversation with Commissioner Dozier as well,
Right.
to see. I mean, we certainly want to make sure the
Right.
board's time is fruitful. I think you'll see we purposely put more on the agenda, but we also had time to do it without it just being recycled. That's the only thing, but I'm not aware of anything that needs to be on the agenda for vote.
But I'm sure that once Commissioner Dozier and Commissioner Nail meet, we'll be notified if they're needed. So we'll go from there. It's from our newest member. He's ready to.
I've been on the board.
I know it. It's been properly seconded. Great. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? See you when we see you.